Rocky Patel, just a few blocks from PNC Park on the North Shore. And this is Hold My Cutter. And this edition, once again, our guest, he decides which one we're going to go with. And our featured smoke is, of course, the White Label by Rocky. You can't go wrong with it. And, of course, our guest is Steven Brault, former Pirate left-handed pitcher, but he's in Pittsburgh now. He's one of the analysts on Sportsnet Pittsburgh, pre- and post-game with the Fort, Michael McKenry. Michael, before we ask Steven this question, now you knew Steven, of course, before you started working with him on the air this year. Before we even talked to Steven, is there a word or words to describe this unique individual here who's our special guest?
No, they're still working on it in the Webster Dictionary and how to describe this
the
young buck here.
indescribable one.
He is, yeah. I mean,
I'll take indescribable.
Indescribable.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah,
it
in
could
one
be good
word,
or bad.
I feel bad if it's one word.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you know, you're my teammate.
Teammate, baby.
Yeah, come on.
How's it been working with him?
Oh, it's been awesome. Honestly.
Well, maybe let me ask you, would you describe him?
But I would call him.
It better be
eclectic. Is the word that I would use.
Wow.
Yeah,
I'll take that
Michael
word.
is a jack of all trades. It's actually amazing. You know, we've been doing this for a little over a month now, and I've already learned so much, and most of it I attribute to you. I don't know if we've had this conversation, but it seriously has been extremely helpful. Like every time that I have any questions or anything, I run to Michael, and he's happy to help. It's been awesome, but that is the only nice thing I'm going to say this entire time.
Now we're back to normal.
Yeah,
that's good.
Steven Brault.
I'll pay you that money later.
He was drafted by the Baltimore Orioles out of the San Diego area. He goes and attends college at Regis University near Denver. He gets drafted by the Baltimore Orioles. The Pirates trade for him a couple years later. Trivia question: you know the guy that the Pirates traded to Baltimore to get Steven Brault?
I don't.
Travis Snyder. Did you know Travis at all?
I played with Travis.
Oh, then you did know him.
I was here when,
Okay, well, there you go.
When he was here.
Me. I was the guy. Well, I was the second guy. I was the PTBNL of that trade. Player to be named later. Stephen Tarpley.
Oh, that's right. And Tarpley then they used to...
So you were the second Steven?
I was the second
Do you know who
Steven.
they acquired? Texas, right? They traded...
No, they traded him to the Yankees?
For?
I don't remember.
That's a tease for later on the show. We're going to have that answer.
There's a bucket of rocks.
No,
yeah.
So, Steven, tell us about your journey. Tell us about being a huge baseball fan growing up in SoCal.
Yeah.
Padres?
I'm a Padres fan, big Padres fan. I still am. I still follow the Padres a good amount. All my buddies back in San Diego, we have a group chat that we talk about the Padres all the time and what's going on with them. But, it's I grew up loving baseball. My dad got me into it. My dad was the biggest baseball fan on the planet. My dad still plays baseball at now 62 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
That's
pretty
great.
cool. But he wasn't a baseball player. He wasn't a professional player or anything. He just loves the game, and I learned everything that I know about baseball from him and the fundamentals of baseball and how it's supposed to be played. And I grew up watching Tony Gwynn. He was my favorite player, and talk about liking somebody who just plays the game the right way. Tony Gwynn was the guy, But then, I went to Division II college in Colorado from San Diego because I wanted to pursue music and baseball at the same time, and no big colleges would let me do that. So I went Division II, and it worked out for me. I got drafted. I just kept pushing everything back, right? Just let somebody else make the decision for me. What am I going to do music? Am I going to play baseball? And then I got drafted. So I was like, all right, I'll go play baseball. Maybe I'll figure out music later. And I mean, it's the fact that it just continued as long as it did. I never thought I would get to that point. I never thought that I would play in the major leagues for, parts of 7 years. I never imagined that. It couldn't have gone any better. It was absolutely my dream that I got to live through and achieve. And I mean, I'm the happiest ex-baseball player I think there is, man. I loved every second of it. My career ended before I wanted it to, but I got to enjoy it, and I made sure that I took advantage of it when I was playing, so I don't regret a thing.
I think you told me, did you meet Tony Gwynn somewhere along the line?
Oh, yeah, a few times, because he was the head coach at San Diego State, so I met him a few times there when I was a kid, but also one time I was in Arizona watching them play against the Diamondbacks, and my brother and I were watching batting practice. My brother was supposed to be protecting me while I was reading the program. Tony Gwynn was taking batting practice.
Oh, no.
Hit a line drive in foul territory, and it hit me on the knee.
Oh, my
And
God.
some other guy grabbed the ball and ran away. I'm like a 10-year-old kid crying. Some other guy takes
Shame
the ball.
on you, guy.
I know,
Yeah.
right? But then I saw Tony Gwynn at a basketball game at San Diego State, and my dad, coached me into going up to him and saying, "Hey, you hit a ball off my knee," and he was really nice about it. He was great. I love Tony Gwynn.
How many years
He was-
after that did that occur?
Oh no, that was like
That
the week later.
A
I
week
think
later.
I still had the mark on my knee. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I tried to do. We went to autograph signings when I was a kid. We were big Padres fans. We'd tailgate 4 games with our motorhome. We did it all, man. We were
awesome.
big fans. My dad took me out of school a few times to go see Padres games. We drove from San Diego to LA or San Diego to Arizona on a Sunday to go watch Padres games. We watched the Padres in Colorado. We watched them in Philly. I mean, we were big Padres fans.
That's
Was
awesome.
your brother as good an athlete?
I have
as
3
you?
brothers.
Oh,
I have
okay.
3
Well,
brothers.
You have to be the best athlete in the family.
I was the only professional athlete, but I would actually say my brother Philip, who played volleyball through college, he was a very late bloomer in his size, but now he's way bigger than me. And he plays slow pitch softball now, and I've never seen anybody hit a ball slow pitch
Really?
softball as far as he can.
Come on.
It's crazy, and he do it right-handed and left-handed. It is very impressive.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was Regis University like?
Oof.
I just saw somebody recently. No, somebody went to Regis High School. Anyway,
Is that
go
like
ahead.
Kelly and Regis?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
that's right, yeah.
Regis.
Regis.
Everybody went to Regis. We were in Pueblo, Colorado one time, and there was a guy in the Applebee's that we were at as a team, and we.
Because
he
that's
goes,
where you eat.
Yeah, and he
it's
goes, "Where are you
unbelievable.
guys? Where are you guys from?" And we're like, "Regis University," and his response was, "What's a Regis?" And I'll never forget that. But no, it was a tiny school. We had 1,200 undergrad
Wow.
students. So my biggest class was like 31 people, and that was my science lab. I took a lot of music classes. I had classes that it was just me. Music lessons.
Wait, what?
Yeah, it was just
Come
me
on.
and a professor.
That's called homeschool.
And yeah,
That's
right.
right.
Yeah.
And that's what
crazy,
it felt like.
though.
Yeah,
That's so
it's-
cool.
So it was a great experience. I got really close. I still talk to a lot of my college buddies. I just got married this off season. A lot of them were at my wedding, and I'm still close to them. I was just talking to multiple of my college friends today. You guys will love this. I haven't told you this yet. Robbie Inspikowski is now working for the Texas Rangers. They're in San Francisco right now. My buddy that I went to college with knows the Texas Rangers radio guy. And so he went out with them. They remembered each other because my college teammate went to my major league debut where Robbie interviewed my parents. So then they went and drank together after.
Come on.
Yeah.
What
so
a
I got a
small
picture
world.
yesterday from Robbie Inspikowski.
That's nuts.
With my buddy Charlie.
Holy
Yeah.
cow.
Yeah, it's like, what?
That is
great.
crazy.
Yeah.
What kind of a baseball team would Regis have?
Not a great one.
Yeah, well,
It's just
I didn't mean it that way.
I'll put it this way. My sophomore year, we got to regionals for the first time in school history. And we were pretty good, but we're in a hotel that a bunch of the other teams were in, and everybody else is like, doing stuff and hanging out. And we took over the entire lobby because we had like 6 guys playing 3 different games of chess. We had like 4 guys studying. I was playing video games with 3 of my buddies who were playing Super Smash Bros. On the Nintendo 64. We had guys doing a jigsaw puzzle on the floor in the lobby of the hotel. It was just a bunch of nerds who also happened to play baseball. But there's like 6 guys on my team that are now CPAs, and it's just
So
they
if
were
it
all
broke
nerds.
out into debate, you guys win.
Oh yeah, we would have won.
But you
Absolutely.
were the only guy that came out as a pro baseball player. Anybody
I believe
else?
There's one other guy that was there the year before me who got signed as a catcher. His name is Zach Blakely, but I don't think he got drafted.
Okay.
And he definitely never made it to the major leagues. So I am the only player in Regis history to make it to the major leagues.
Good for you.
But I believe Bart Starr went to Regis University. So they have a football history, even though they don't have a football team anymore.
That's
So,
crazy.
Yeah. Regis is a cool place, man.
Why there? I know
Uh,
it's because you wanted to pursue 2 dreams at the same time, but there's a lot of places you could have done that. You leave California, go to Colorado. If you know anything about Colorado, it's hard to pitch there.
It is.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
why did you choose there?
It was the only place. I'll just be honest with you. It was the only place that was gonna let me do music, play baseball, hit and pitch, and they gave me full tuition scholarship. So if
Good
to
enough for
me,
you,
it was
mate.
like,
Deal right
they
there.
literally gave me everything.
Man.
If I didn't accept that, I would be spitting in the face of everybody who wanted to go to college and play baseball. You know what I mean? Like, it was literally the perfect opportunity, and I couldn't be happier that I went, man. It
Well,
was.
that was a great answer.
It's
Yeah.
just the truth,
Yeah,
man. It was,
that's awesome.
There were Division I schools I was talking to that were like, yeah, we'll give you a little bit of scholarship and you can redshirt as a freshman and maybe be a
cannot do
relief
music.
pitcher. And I
Yeah.
was like, it sounds like the worst thing ever. I want to go play baseball. I don't want to go sit on the bench.
Yeah.
So I went to a school where I was going to play, and it worked out for me. That's what I suggest to kids, like high school age guys, all the time. Go somewhere where you're going to play.
Yeah.
Anybody, if you're good, you'll get found.
No doubt.
There's video everywhere. There's scouts everywhere. If you're good enough, somebody will find you. So go somewhere where you're going to actually be able to develop and play. You know what I mean? That's what I did.
Where you don't want to leave, too.
Exactly.
The NIL, guys just jumping in and out of the portal.
That sounds terrible.
It
dude.
does, right?
Yeah.
Like, I get calls all the time. It's so sad. It's like, go where you want to be. And the fact that you had something to study, I think, draws light to go somewhere you want to be, something you want to study, and then, oh, yeah, you get to play the sport you love.
Yeah, dude.
It's perfect.
It was perfect. I missed a lot of baseball practices for rehearsals and
Which they understood,
performances, and yeah, they understood going
So
in.
cool.
I met with the music director and the head coach when I went on my visit, and we had a little sit down, and they explained to me how it would work. They had already worked it out. It was really cool. It was just like everything I could ever want. When I went to that game that I threw all the fastballs in Denver,
Yeah.
my music director from Regis University was there. You know, like we had a great relationship. So
Was he in the back going like this?
yeah,
Yeah, that would've been
That's why he
great.
just kept
Keeping me
throwing
on
heaters?
time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
How
there
was
you go.
perfectly
that
in
would have
sync.
been so great.
Yeah,
He's
but
on the
sick, right?
mound and he's
like
doing the
this.
directing.
He's like, oh, yeah, another heater.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
absolutely. Keep it in 4/4 time. You're a little offbeat.
When you went there, did you have any thoughts that you could end up being a pro baseball player, let alone a major leaguer?
Absolutely not. When I went to Regis, I basically had come to the conclusion that I was going to play baseball for 4 more years, and then I was going to continue. I was going to pursue music. That really was what I had in my mind. I actually, just to be open about things, I had kind of a breakdown my sophomore year because I had a surgery on my right shoulder in baseball, and I wasn't going to be able to play for a while, and I called my dad and was like, I think I want to quit baseball. I think I just want to do music and only pursue music. And my dad was basically like, look, no matter what, you're not gonna, if you don't get drafted, you're not going to be playing baseball, competitively after 2 years from now anyway. So just, live out those 2 years, man. Like you might as well live out those 2 years. And it's probably the best piece of advice I've ever gotten, to be
Way to
honest
go,
with you.
Dad, yeah.
Yeah. Dan
great
Brault,
advice.
shout out.
Was there also, though, didn't you at some point have to make a tough call when it came to deciding between music and baseball, though?
Not really.
You didn't?
I got lucky enough that I got drafted after my junior year, right?
Yeah.
So when I got drafted, I had a talk, I had already talked with my music director. It was like, hey, if I get drafted, I'm going to take it because most likely I'm not going to get that opportunity again being in a small Division II school. And, and we had a great meeting. He was like, man, you can do music your whole life. You can only do baseball for a finite amount of time. Your body eventually is going to break down, which it did. And, and that's kind of like, once again, the influences that I had in my life, he didn't make it hard for me or make it, make me feel bad about leaving.
Yeah.
He was very, very cool about it. Dr. Davenport, he was very, very, understanding of the situation. Like, baseball is what you love. You love music too. If baseball works out, great. If it doesn't, come back, finish your degree in music, and then, go pursue that instead. And so I ran with it, man. Yeah.
Can you tell us what draft day was like
I can.
and where you were and all that?
Yeah, so I got, on day 2 of the draft, I got called by the Yankees, and the Yankees told me, would you consider taking significantly below slot money to go in the 5th round? And I said yes. And then...
Why'd you say yes?
Because
It's the 5th round?
It was the 5th round.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
And I had no
Well,
agent
what if
or
they
anything.
said, 7th, 8th, 10th? I mean, at
I
what
would have
point-
said yes to all of it.
okay.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah.
And they ended up not taking me. I found out later is because somebody had put me on the injury board on
no.
accident because
No.
I had hurt my right shoulder the year before, and I had gotten labrum surgery on my right shoulder, and somebody for some reason read it as labrum surgery on my throwing arm, so they put me on the injury board and didn't take me.
Wow.
And then I didn't get drafted that day. And then the next day, I got drafted by the Orioles in the 11th round in I think it was like the 13th pick or something. And so the third day it wasn't broadcast on TV. It was on the internet. So I was in Minnesota with my host family. I was playing Northwoods League Baseball. And my dad was there. My brother Philip was there. And I literally plugged in my HDMI to my computer. I plugged in the HDMI to the TV. And it went with the 13th pick of the 11th round, the Baltimore Orioles select Steven Brault.
Stop.
And it took me by surprise because they never called me.
Oh,
I had no idea that they even wanted to draft me.
out of the blue, the Orioles.
Completely out of the blue, right when I hooked up. And so we looked at each other like, wait, that was my name, right? And, the guys that are there, I don't remember who the analysts were that were talking about it, but they're like, yeah, 11th round pick, left-hander out of Regis University.
Scrambling to find out where's
Yeah,
Regis.
they didn't know who I was,
Yeah.
it was, and then we just lost our minds. But yeah, I was at my host family's house in Minnesota when I was playing the Northwoods League out there.
Yeah, you said though that it was a surprise about the Orioles, but what other teams wouldn't have surprised?
That's
you?
crazy.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's crazy when the team that drafted you. I was the same way. I talked to Rockies
but I mean,
once.
but
It's nuts.
Yeah,
It's
and
like, what?
The crazy thing is, I didn't talk. I think I talked to the scout. His name is John Gillette. I talked to him at some point, right? But it was never like, we're thinking about taking you in this round or anything like that.
But were there other teams that would not have surprised you as much?
Yes.
For example?
The White Sox.
Okay.
I talked to the White Sox a good amount. I talked to the Reds a good amount. The one team, I think when it came down to it, I think I talked to 29 teams. I think I filled out scouting reports for 29 teams. And it's not the Orioles. I did fill out a scouting report for the Orioles. I never filled it out for the Padres.
How?
My
What?
hometown team never wanted
Wow.
me. Yeah. But
Wow.
but it was really weird because then you get drafted and nobody called me. So now I'm just sitting there like,
Now what?
I have no idea how any of this works. I didn't even know that there were short season teams. So I was like, so do I just join a team halfway through the season?
I didn't either.
I didn't
So
know.
funny,
I didn't
yeah.
know how that worked.
Yeah.
So I find out 2 hours later, I get a call from a number I don't know, and I answer the phone, and it's the Orioles, and they give me an offer, and obviously I'm not gonna negotiate or anything. I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, sure.
So I just said absolutely, let's do it, and then they flew me out the next day to Florida.
You said that the Yankees basically made a mistake,
Yeah.
thought it was your throwing shoulder. Did that mean other teams thought the same thing?
Probably.
Yeah, that's why it
At some
took
point.
that many rounds. Of
Yeah,
course.
it was really interesting because, I didn't know how professional baseball worked. I'm not a guy who was lucky enough to have family that played professional baseball. You didn't either, did you? And so everything is new. Man, you go out to Florida, and the first person I met in the airport, his name is Connor Bierfeld. He was one of my best men at my wedding this year. I convinced him to move out to San Diego. We lived together in the off seasons for multiple years.
Good for you.
He was the first person I met in the Tampa airport. And I walked up to him because he was carrying a baseball glove. And he looked like my age. And I was
No
like,
kidding.
maybe he got drafted by the Orioles.
Yeah.
And sure enough, yeah.
Isn't that crazy? Baseball.
Or you said you didn't know anything about short season
I knew
either?
nothing. They told me I was going to Tri-Cities. I was like, yes,
that?
right
Yeah.
down the road. And they were like, no, Washington. I'm like, what do you mean Washington? They're like, Washington State. I'm like, the state? Washington? Like that one way up
Where
there?
is that? Which
Yeah.
way?
So we flew all the way across the country, just like you. Like, I think it's funny. He said he never played on the West Coast, and I forgot to play on the East Coast. Played 1 year with Nashville, but other than that, everything was on the West Coast. It's crazy.
Yeah, I got drafted. So, just to be honest with you, I grew up watching the Padres, right? I knew West Coast baseball. That is what, and National League baseball, more so. And then I got drafted by the Baltimore Orioles, which is the team that I could not have cared any less about. I didn't know anything about the Orioles, right?
Yep.
And so I just knew, all right, I guess I'm wearing orange and black now, you know?
Yeah,
And
but
that's-
also didn't you think you might be able to pitch and hit?
No. I knew.
No, before the draft.
Yeah. So actually, the first scouting report that you fill out, like your information and you do like a personality test and all that stuff. The first one I ever did was for the White Sox, and it was as an outfielder, and that was the only one I ever did as an outfielder. After that, it was all pitching. So I knew I was going to be a pitcher.
Oh.
Yeah. I was also just to be honest, I kind of really tore it up my junior year as a pitcher in Denver. And that was like, if you can hit in Colorado, it's not that much of a surprise. But if you can pitch in Colorado, then people take notice.
So when you got traded a couple years later to the Pirates, a National League club back then, way back then, many, many years ago, pitchers actually also hit. They played the entire game of baseball. It's
You don't
weird.
say.
Crazy.
9 guys on the field. They fielded, they pitched, everything
They
else.
had double switches then too, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Anyhow, so when you got traded to the Pirates, did anything go through your mind like, hey, I might be able to?
No, it was the first thing that went through my mind.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. And I, when I was with the Orioles, there was a time where I this is kind of toot my own horn a little bit, but we were, they were taking batting practice one day off a curveball machine on the field. And there was just like 6 guys out there. And the hitting coach, who's actually the first base coach for the Philadelphia Phillies now, Paco Figueroa, he was loading the curveball machine. And Connor, my buddy, is like, hey, Steven apparently could really hit in college. I hadn't hit in like 3 months or 4 months at this point, whatever it was. And, Steven really hit in college. We should let him hit off the machine. And he's like, no, we're not going to get him hurt, whatever. And they convinced him to let me. And first pitch off the curveball machine, I went deep.
That's
No
awesome.
way.
Yeah.
What did he do? What was
That's
his
awesome.
reaction?
Everybody just laughed.
Wow.
I mean, it's just one of those things where it's like, hey, all right, it's cool. I guess it's not totally gone. But when I got traded to the Pirates, then I had to look up, like, okay, when do pitchers hit in the minor leagues?
Yeah.
And so in Double-A, you start hitting the minor leagues if it's 2 National League teams. That's how it worked.
Below
And
that,
so-
never.
Yeah.
Correct.
And so my career average in the minor leagues, I believe, is around 400. I hit really well in the minor leagues.
Man.
And then when we got to the big leagues, that was something that I tried to nurse as much as possible. They knew I could hit, and I told them I'd be willing to hit if they wanted me to. And so Clint Hurdle started using me as a pinch hitter, every now and then, and I loved it, man. I loved every second of it. I wanted to be a position player so bad.
Is there any time that you actually were with the Pirates at all, ever, for an inning or two? Didn't you?
No, I never got to play in the outfield. It
You were
happened.
close, though.
I got close a lot of
Got
times.
close.
So I don't know if you remember this, but in between 2019 and 2020, there was actually articles written about, because I had talked with Clint Hurdle and Neil Huntington
Oh, I do remember
about
that.
the fact that I was going to come back the next year as kind of a Lorenzen guy.
That's right.
Where I was going to be a starter / reliever
Yeah.
/ 5th, 6th outfielder, and I was going to hit more often. And then then Clint and Neil got let go, and then COVID happened, and I had an interview where, luckily, Clint is a good friend of mine and has a good sense of humor about this, because they asked me about that, and I thought it'd be funny to say, yeah, I think that's actually why Clint got fired, is because that article came out.
That's great.
And he texted me like 2 days later with a quote from that article, and I was like, I'm so sorry. He's like, no, I thought it was
that's
hilarious.
great.
Don't worry. Yeah,
he's great.
he's a great guy. Still very close with him. I saw him this offseason. I went to an alumni event in Vegas and the winter meetings in Nashville, and I got to hang out with Clint Hurdle
That's
both
awesome.
times, and got every time I get to hang out with Clint Hurdle, it's great. He's helped me in every aspect, moving into this next level, next career that I'm doing. I love Clint. He's a great guy.
Well, he loves helping people.
Oh,
I
yeah.
know that. It talks about a servant's heart. I've never seen anybody so good with children and people that are fighting through different
Oh, yeah.
issues in their lives. He's something else. We could get into that. Managers over the years were here, of course, with Steven Brault. And when you came to the Pirates, your first team was which?
First team was Bradenton Marauders.
Okay. And you were there for how long? Do you remember?
They were high A at the time. Yeah. Well, actually,
that's right, they were high A.
So I played, with the Orioles. I got up to high A for like the last week. I think I got 2 starts in high A with the Orioles in my first full season, and then I got traded to the Pirates, and I started in high A. I was there for half the season. I got moved up to Double A. I was there for half the season, and then I went to the Fall League that year. And then they started me the next year in AAA, and I made my big league debut halfway through the season. So when I got to the Pirates, they shot me through the system really quick. I'm very appreciative that I got
Unexpected, though.
moved
You
over
didn't
to the
expect
Pirates.
this.
No, not at all.
Right.
I mean, I was I played low A my whole first season with the Orioles. You know, I did pretty well, but I was like, all right, it's going to take me a long time to get to the big leagues. That's fine. You know, I'll grind through it. I love it. It didn't matter to me. I loved the bus rides. Tell me if you had this feeling. Tell me if you ever had this realization, okay? I was sitting on a bus. We were about to take a 14-hour bus ride to Rome, Georgia, okay? And we even had to share, you know, it wasn't like you had your own row. Like, it was me next to another guy for 14 hours. And right before we took off, I thought to myself, I have literally nothing else to do other than pitch every 5 days. This bus ride doesn't seem that bad. I don't have to do an essay. I don't have to worry about a final I have to study for.
That's a
My
great
whole
attitude.
life was
Jeez.
baseball. And it everything unlocked for me. None of that mattered to me. I enjoyed every second of it because why not? We stayed in the crappiest hotels. I mean, the worst you could find in horrible towns. No offense, but we went to Jamestown, New York. Did you ever play in Jamestown?
I don't think I did. No.
Because they were
Is that the New York Penn League?
yeah, the Penn League.
Yeah, I didn't play in the Penn League.
They were the Pirates affiliate
Right.
for a little bit. I played against the Pirates in Jamestown, and I mean, we stayed at a Red Roof Inn there that I'm like, it was
Should've
it's the
been
worst
condemned.
hotel. Yeah, it was the worst hotel I've ever been in by
Wow.
far.
Really?
I've had a lot of friends, you know, Chad Cool and Trevor Williams, a lot of guys that have stayed in that same hotel that we have swapped stories about how horrible that hotel is. Everybody has terrible experiences there.
Yeah.
And it just made me like, man, this is the minor leagues, man. Like, you got to grind through it. And I got traded to the Pirates, and, you know, all of a sudden it didn't seem like it was a grind anymore. They just shot me through. I was doing well, and they allowed me to continue moving up. It was a really cool experience.
Worst hotel fort you ever in the minor leagues? Do you have one? Worst town?
Yeah, there's a lot of them. Not one that stood out because I'm kind of like him. Is
I hate to rip the towns. That's
no,
not fair.
it was one of those things like you were so appreciative of where you were. You know, like I didn't ever think.
So do you guys feel that way? Did most players feel that way?
If they didn't,
you
they
think-
didn't make it most of the time.
No, seriously, yeah.
Oh.
Most of the guys who hated minor leagues don't make it through the
That's
minor leagues.
interesting. Really?
Yeah.
And I would say the lower levels, you can speak to this too, is like some of my best memories are in the lower levels. I mean, because like you're there and it still feels like a group of guys that are fighting for the same goal. Like we wanted to win. We obviously, some guys were prospects, some guys weren't. But like as you move up, it as you get closer, it gets more individualized. And a lot of things change. A lot of things are shifting all the time. That lower level, I think, there's something special about it. And I think when you're staying at a bad hotel, you can kind of swap stories, joke around about it. Like
yeah, I mean, we had a great
I
time.
saw cockroach this big once, you know? And I'll never forget it. Once I was in Arizona. First apartment I stayed in was a ex-drug dealer. I'll never forget it. It smelled like marijuana everywhere. I'm like, I wonder where they hid it. Maybe under the couch? Because we went on the couch, it was like, Cheech and Chong popped out. It was wild.
No
Dude, like,
way.
those are the coolest memories.
The whole experience of the minor leagues, that there's memories that I'll have forever just because you're put into situations you never thought you'd be in. You know, and the best part of the lower minor leagues is everybody is the same age. You know, you're all 21 to 24 years old at the max, and you're all going through the same thing. You're trying to push your way up to the major leagues, and it's not about hoping your other teammates fail. You just use that as competition. You hope everybody does well, but I just do the best. Right? And that's like the way you have to look at it. You know, I want my friends to do great, and I want to do better than them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's such a cool mentality. And when you move up, it's bittersweet because you know you're going to join a new team. You're going to have to make all new friends. You're not going to know anybody. You know, it's a weird experience. And man, it's really cool. I loved my minor league experience. I wouldn't trade it for anything.
What do you think about baseball trying to make all these improvements, though, over the years for the minor leagues? Is that a good thing?
Couldn't be happier about it.
Yo, you really? Okay.
Oh,
'cause-
yeah.
Yeah, but part of the experience is the rough
Yeah,
bus
like, for
rides,
example,
the bad hotels, the bad
Just
locker
today,
rooms, the
just
bad
today,
club.
what were we talking with Haley about, right?
Pay.
She was pay. What was your first paycheck after taxes?
$250.
That's why you don't live in California, folks. But at the end of the day, that's crazy.
Yeah.
$200. right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think mine was like 800. I mean,
Yeah.
900, whatever it was.
It was like, you know, you can look it up, so it doesn't matter. I signed for $75,000. So after taxes, you clear about half of that, right? And so that was the only money I had. And it felt like I had plenty of money to do anything.
Right?
But at the same time, every 2 weeks you get a check for less than $500. And then I worked at Target in the off season to supplement my income, and I made more money working at Target for the off season than I did during the season.
You sound like the players that came like before I don't know what year, I'd say pre-1980, forever, for almost 100 years. That's what players did.
Yeah, he was like the last round of the old school.
So devil's advocate, what's wrong with that?
Because people deserve a livable wage for a full-time job.
And that's what you say baseball is.
Absolutely.
Well, especially now.
No,
it never stops
but
now,
people
Brownie.
say it's a game. Baseball's a game.
It is, but you can't stop now.
You are lucky and so fortunate that you have that athleticism, that God-given talent. It's so fortunate that you could play a kid's game. And yeah, like many that came before you guys, yeah, you had to get a job to supplement your income during the off season. And there's a lot of good that comes out of that.
Yeah.
People would say.
But the one problem is now is there really isn't an off season. I mean, every year I was in minor league baseball. I went and played somewhere, and then we had winter development. But now they have hitting camp, they have speed, bat speed training camp, they have pitch design camp.
You don't get paid for that.
Devil's advocate.
You don't get paid.
Devil's advocate would say, is that a good thing?
I don't know. Time
Are
will tell.
players better because of that?
I don't know.
I
think it's a lot of boxes.
They are better
Speed
because
checks.
I will say unashamedly.
I have no way to speak on
baseball players are the best they've ever been. And
because of the off-season stuff.
Because it is now required. Think about this. I had a lot of guys that I played with that would not throw a baseball in the off season until they got to spring training. Okay?
Yeah, I mean,
that was normal.
That used to be the norm.
Yeah.
But you come to spring training ready.
Not the case anymore.
Yeah.
Now you have to come into spring training fully 100% ready to go. Otherwise, you're never going to make a team. You're not. Because they expect you from day one to be able to perform. And that is different than it ever was.
Well, no.
Is that good for baseball?
I'm going to push back on that.
All right.
Because an established player already has a team made. You're talking about guys that are fighting for a job, and most, Walkie's always said this forever. I don't know if I've talked to you guys or you, Ford, about it, and he's so right, that every year going into spring training, teams will say about competition at certain positions. We don't know yet. They know, for the most part, what that roster is like.
I agree.
I'll tell you what. There is not a single minor leaguer that is in baseball right now that takes the offseason off. Not one.
Not one.
Because you can't. Because you will not make a team when you get to spring training.
And to be honest, as you played longer, the way you supplement your income is you went and played in the off season. So like you didn't have an off season anyways. You went and played. So the reality of it is now it's just shifted where the organization's taking more control and they're able to develop these guys a little bit different. But yeah, he's right. And the coolest part I want you to touch on
I guess that's the difference. So going back to that is that you're talking about, again, going through the minor leagues, which makes sense, and that you have to, you're not talking about being an established player in the big leagues yet.
And I got the very minimal taste of this. So like 16, 17, the shift started. Analytics really took off. Pitch design took off. Matrix took off. You were right in the middle of it. So you got to see both sides in both extremes. Explain that a little bit, because part of the reason you're not pitching anymore is because of the extreme on the other side, because you were throwing shed.
Yeah, I had to change. They wanted me to throw harder. And that's fine. It was how things were working, and I did. I adjusted how I was pitching so that I could throw harder. And I did, and then I got hurt. And I don't think that it means it's not a fault of anybody's. It's just how the game is run now, is that they want velocity, and I get it. But when I was coming up, it was the old-fashioned baseball, right? Old style of baseball. And then by the time I finished with baseball, it is fully the new way of baseball. So yeah, I got to experience that full transition period. And for a while there, it was weird because, like, here's an example. Maybe you don't know this. When I was in the minor leagues, the day after I pitched, I had to go up in the stands to radar gun our pitcher for that day, so we could get velocity.
And you had a chart, right?
And you had a chart. You still have the chart.
Which pitchers did for a long, long time. I didn't realize that you were still doing it then.
The day after that, you would be the camera guy, where you would go to the whoever was pitching, you'd go to their open side. So if a righty's pitching, you go to the third base side and you'd set up a camera, and at the beginning of every inning, you record it. You have to set it up so that it gets their mechanics from the open side and record it. And then at the end of every inning, you turn off record, you turn the camera off so the battery doesn't die, right? That was your job, was to do the camera. Now, they don't have to do things like that because every minor league stadium has TrackMan.
Yeah.
The first time I threw in front of a TrackMan and it told me what my spin rate was, it told me that my spin rate sucked. And I was like, oh, that's a bummer. I was hoping that was going to say that I was good, you know? But it was a weird transition that everybody had to learn. So all the guys that are my age that are now, longtime big leaguers, some of my best friends, Trevor Williams, Jansen Tyone, Joe Musgrove, those guys, they all went through it too. And they were able to adjust to what the analytics said they needed to do to be better. And it's a really cool process. It's just different. It's just different.
Well, they said that in general, you had to throw harder, but in their minds, in order to get people out. In other words, just keep getting guys out. Don't worry about how throw. That's not part of the equation.
My analytics said that my fastball, 93 and above, was like a 70 grade fastball, which is very, very high. And below that, it was like a 55 grade fastball, which is still good. But I could be an elite pitcher if I could consistently throw over 93 miles an hour. So that was why. So you want to play up to, hey, Steven, you could be a fine major league pitcher, or you could bring up your velo and be an elite major league pitcher.
Boy,
so what am I going to do? I'm obviously going to try to be an elite major league pitcher.
They put this little carrot out in front of you.
That's fine,
You're going to take
line
it.
there.
Yeah, but they put a carrot out in front of you. So what are you going to do? You're going to run and try to grab that carrot.
Yeah, I going to, at the time, like now I look back and I'm like, man, I could have pitched for 12 years as a left-handed reliever throwing 88 miles an hour.
Right, exactly. So that's what's better.
But if it had worked out and nobody could hit me, I could have signed for $150 million. You know what I mean? So it's like, at the time, it's obvious.
Isn't it interesting that basically machines are telling that story? Not that, that's, a friend of mine, and you know him too, Fort, made this suggestion. I think I brought this up to you.
I love this, actually. Love it.
With all the injuries and everything else that's going on, he suggested this. Beginning in 2025, baseball dictates throughout the country, worldwide maybe, no more radar guns, computers, no more, nothing to show velocity, spin rate, and they're all gone from every ballpark. If a scout is seen with a radar gun or whatever it might be, TrackMan, whatever, that team is fined millions of dollars, never to be seen again, that scout or that organization. What an idea that would be. So scouts now, no more guns. We don't know how fast he's throwing, but look, Steven Brault, he's getting guys out.
Yeah.
He looks like he's throwing hard.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, that fastball plays. Boy, that's a, I bet you if we had a gun, it might not show 95, 96, but the batters, the way they're reacting, it sure looks like it's mid to high 90s.
Yeah, and that is
Imagine that
part
world.
of it. Yeah, I would love that. I've actually had that exact conversation with friends of mine before because I think it's such a cool concept.
Yeah.
Where if you, but I take it a step further. My step further is
yes, let's go.
I don't want replays.
Oh, you and I are in the same boat.
Robot umpires.
Oh,
I don't want challenges
because
I think it takes away the human element of the game. And call me old-fashioned or whatever you want. I understand why you do it because now we're playing. The reason it's happening, okay, is because it's the same thing with the NFL. The cameras are too good now, right? Instant replay is so immediate, and we have super slow-mo on everything that you know exactly if it was a ball or a strike. You know exactly if it was a fair or foul ball, right? So none of these are really judgment calls anymore, which in old-timey baseball, it was. It was, what did the umpires see? If there was a replay, the camera was so grainy that you couldn't really see it anyway.
It's why the game is the greatest game of all, because it's 162 games long. Because those mistakes even out, and the better teams rise to the top.
Exactly.
That's why baseball wasn't meant for this. Now, again, we're just shooting the stuff here.
But then
around.
the hypotheticals go away too,
because
right?
we're never going back to it. But that was my gripe about replay when it first started. You know, in sports and in baseball specifically, players can make mistakes. Coaches can make mistakes. Managers can make mistakes. Fans can make mistakes. Announcers can make mistakes. The only individuals in that stadium or ballpark that is not allowed to make a mistake is the official, the umpire. Everything has to be perfect. It's part of this wrong society. Nobody can be wrong anymore.
Well, so here's my other thing that I've said for a very long time. They should get rid of the strike zone on TV.
Yeah, it's
Again,
not
those days
real.
are,
It's not
those
real.
days are gone, but you're right.
It's not real, and also it takes away. It makes fans think they know better than the umpire.
Of course.
Right? And being an umpire is so hard.
Yeah.
A major league umpire, especially with how hard people are throwing nowadays and how much everything moves.
Yep.
Being an umpire is really, really hard. Okay, so I give him all the credit in the world. But with that strike zone on TV, it makes you think, oh, how do you not see that?
Of course.
How do you get that wrong?
So I'm going to take it a step further. Since we're taking it a little further, I say we have a fan game, and they umpire.
that
right?
would
and
be.
they hit, right? And they pitch, so they can see it. Like sometimes I think it's very difficult to understand how hard the game is and how good the umpires really are, especially with the stuff today. I mean, what we were watching today, we had 99-mile-an-hour bowling ball sinkers with a knuckle curveball that just fell off the roof at 88.
Yeah.
I don't remember an 88-mile-an-hour knuckleball pitcher anywhere. Knuckle curve I did not see at 88 when I played. That's a different animal.
Do you remember, this is really big for me, Jake Peavy, 2007 won the Cy Young, maybe 2006,
Sounds
one
right.
of those years. He was a starting pitcher throwing 94 miles an hour, and it was crazy.
Yeah.
Everybody was like, wow.
Yes.
A starting pitcher consistently throwing 94, 95, even got up to 96 a few times. That's insane.
Yep.
And now if you're right-handed and you don't throw 96, good luck getting a consistent job.
No doubt.
And it's
No doubt.
changed that much
Yep.
in not that long of time, and everything has to catch up. But now we expect umpires to be able to see how, did that technically clip the corner
Well,
on
not
an
just- but-
88-mile-an-hour knuckle curve.
But it started with way back before that. It started with foul balls and home runs. And how could that be a home run? The Don Deckinger play in, 85, the World Series of the Cardinals. The Armando Galarraga. And frankly, I thought that was the beginning of that's when it was started. And Michael McKenry was involved in the play that I think finally turned the corner in baseball's head. And we're as much to blame. I blame myself because we all went crazy that night. But that was a human reaction of the play at the plate that went against the Pirates, the 19-inning game in Atlanta. And that started in motion for the implementation of full-blown replay.
Hey, 2008, Colorado Rockies beat the Padres on a walk-off.
Never forget it. I will never forget
Is that
it.
Brian Giles?
No,
Matt Holliday.
it was Matt
Matt Holliday, yeah.
scoring on Jimmy Carroll,
Jamie
Jamie
Carroll,
Carroll.
base
Jamie
hit.
Carroll.
He comes around third, slides in, big head null, gets that hand in.
I think
He was out.
I think it was Giles' throw.
He wasn't even within 6 inches of home
No.
plate.
No, so the
It was
question would
magical,
be
though. That was like their 24th win in a row. So everybody
Yeah.
in Denver's going bonkers. Everybody in San Diego's like, I hate baseball. Baseball sucks.
the general question
That's
is
cool.
does that defend replay?
I mean, I don't think so.
I agree.
Because I think it's part of the
I think
human
it's
element.
okay for mistakes to be
Yeah,
made.
absolutely. I think you brought it up perfectly. Everybody else is human and makes mistakes that are involved with the game. So why do we have to robot the umpires? Then why don't we robot the players so that they're perfect?
Right.
You know what I mean? It's
Well, that's where it's going though. Players are becoming robotic.
You're right.
This is true.
And it's not as fun. But I have to say, Jamie Carroll was a coach with the Pirates for a while.
Yeah.
Love
And
the guy.
Every time I saw him, I brought up that play. And every time he said, umpire called him safe.
That's great.
Yeah.
You know, we've discussed this before. One of the great moments, a human moment, was the Armando Galarraga perfect game taken away in Detroit.
Yep.
The very next day, of course, people were up in arms with Jim Joyce. He was the first base umpire that day. The next day, the genius of then manager of the Tigers, Jim Leyland, going into the Hall of Fame, of course, was to tell Galarraga, I want you to take this lineup card to home plate today.
Awesome.
And that moment when Jim Joyce, the umpire who made that call and admitted later, I made a mistake. And that moment when they shared a tearful, I mean, there were tears streaming down Jim Joyce's face.
Yeah.
What an unbelievable moment
Yep.
for all of us to see.
Yep.
And we take that away. It's so wrong.
Yep.
It's so wrong, but it's, you know, that's the way it's going to be.
Too, just
There's
the
no
way
to
that the
change it.
replay's gone. I mean, the fact that you have the bench coach running over and like,
Yeah.
and they have to put a time limit on it. Come on, like either throw the flag or get rid of it. In my opinion.
Yeah,
Well,
I agree.
Take away the phone calls.
I've said that since the
Yeah.
beginning.
Take the phone
No
away.
phone
yeah.
calls.
Since the beginning of it, I've said they should have to challenge on the field because it doesn't make any sense that you expect the umpires to be able to make calls right there on the field, but then you give the team
So
the
unfair.
benefit of the doubt to watch it on replay 16 times in super slow-mo before you ask for the challenge. That doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. And, you know, baseball's proven with replay how right umpires are the vast majority of the time.
They lean on their side too, which I respect. They
Hey.
always lean on their side, and I love that because you're protecting your guys, and too, like, yeah. I
What do you
would
mean?
say,
What do you mean they lean on their side?
Well, they have a call stands, right?
What?
So
Yeah, the
therefore,
call
they
stands.
have 66% of the time, no matter what, the call is going to be on the umpire's side because it's either call confirmed or call stands. There's
Right.
three choices.
Right.
Two of them are on the side of the umpire. One of them is against.
Well, yeah.
And I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm
Yeah.
agreeing with
Yeah.
him. But they should give the umpire the doubt, if the benefit of the doubt, if there's not clear and incontrovertible evidence
Right.
that they were wrong,
Right.
then you can't change it.
Yep.
And I agree with him. I like that. That's good.
I like that.
We were at the replay center this past year, and I got a whole new appreciation for the angles they see. Because when we're doing a game on TV, it frustrates me that I think, wait a second, oh, okay, call. But no, they see so many different angles, and they're able to do the split screen and different angles, and they're really good at it. I'm not a proponent of replay, but they do it right.
And they, I think it was last year they started that they were allowed to time it up together because they now agree,
Yeah.
like they've officially decided
right.
that the timing of the
Yes.
cameras they can get perfectly together. So now they can look at two angles at the same time in the replay booth, which they don't necessarily show on TV.
Yeah.
But in the
Which would be cool if they did.
yeah.
By the way.
But in the replay booth, they're allowed to watch these two different angles because maybe one you can only see his hand touching, and the other you can only see the tag.
Yes, right.
But they can put these two together at
And
the
sync it up.
exact same
Yes,
millisecond,
yes.
and then they can tell which one happened first.
That's, again, something that we, when we're watching our games, are unaware of, but that's going on back in New York.
Also, I have one more gripe about that.
Yeah.
My least favorite thing about replay is the millisecond the foot comes off the bag when a guy slides into a base, and they still have the tag on him, and they get called out, because that to me is like, it's not baseball. It's not the reason the replay rule was made. The guy was safe. He beat the throw
you are
there.
preaching to the choir.
Maybe the natural human body motion took his foot off the
It's
base
crazy.
for a half a second, but he was safe.
You're
you know?
supposed to be attached to the bag like a magnet? It's impossible.
Yeah, it's
Well,
impossible.
it is a Papa John's pizza box now.
It is very
Yeah,
large.
it's supposed
It's
to-
easier to be
Very, very
attached,
large.
but
I went into-
since
It's not
we're-
any taller though.
Well, it was always tall for me. But since we're talking about it, let's talk about not being able to break up double plays. You even talked about just the other day, the obstruction, and I think walking through, I miss that awesome breakup of a double play. Now we have guys trying to just run through. There's always a consequence to every rule they put in, and I miss the times when I'm a rookie and I'm watching Marcus Giles put on soccer shin guards, getting ready for spring training because he knows he's going to get those cleats coming in hot. I think it's part of the game. But that also had the neighborhood play and all those other things. I miss it. I really do.
We actually saw that today. I don't know if you remember the Alika Williams turned double play today.
Oh, he hopped.
And he was standing on second, and whoever was sliding into second, it was a good slide. It wasn't illegal. He slid right on the base, but Alika was standing there on the base, and the guy slid in, and Alika ended up falling over top of him because he took him out. Alika still made the throw, and they got the double play. But like that, I agree. There is room for hard play.
Yeah.
I don't believe there is room for intentionally injuring people play.
I feel like more guys have gotten hurt.
I don't think so. There's no way.
Trying to avoid contact, I feel like guys have gotten hurt. Maybe not more, but
not that different.
Not that different.
Right.
Yeah. I would say if you looked at it evenly, you'd say, man.
Okay, what about the Chase Utley play, though, in New York? Remember that? Chase Utley just goes insane and takes out whoever was playing second base in the double play in New York. And the whole world lost their minds because Chase Utley.
It was a playoff game against the Mets, yeah.
Because Chase Utley crushed him.
Right.
And see, that's one of the reasons. They literally call it the Buster Posey rule at home.
Yep. Okay.
Because he got destroyed at home.
Buster Posey rule drives me insane, by the way.
They call that bona fide slide thing now the Chase Utley rule. They don't call it the Jung Ho Gung rule because Jung Ho Gung got destroyed in the season. You know why?
It wasn't the playoffs.
Because there's a Pirate player.
Yep.
And the same is true with the Posey rule. They don't call it the Coy Hill rule because several years beforehand, you remember Ty Wigginton?
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
He destroyed
He's a dump truck
Coy
when he
Hill,
hit you. Yep.
The Diamondbacks, destroyed him at home plate. Collision, probably, Coy Hill came back, but probably wasn't the same player. But only when Buster Posey was involved did they change it. Because
when it happens to a high profile.
We got to save the stars, which that also bothers me.
But there's
Fair
also
enough.
a lane. The Utley was out of the lane.
Yeah,
if you look at it, Jung Ho Gong, he's in the lane, and I get it. But if you're going to talk about people getting hurt, you got to talk about both. But Buster Posey's reaching for the ball. He's vulnerable. Nobody talks about Cousins. He was up the line and hit him. He didn't have the ball. But nothing. If Buster changed absolutely nothing, that rule still would not help him.
True.
Does that make sense?
He was just up
he's
the
not
line.
blocking the plate.
Yeah.
Cousins came up the line, hit him.
Yeah, that wouldn't have changed anything.
It wouldn't have changed anything. Yeah, that rule doesn't even help Buster Posey.
I've always said that for the most part, players can avoid injury. Like catchers, for the most part, they're worried about injury. They can avoid the collision. They don't have to do it. Now, if they want to get an out and block the plate, okay, you're at your own risk, but they don't have to.
But I think as a fan, you have to miss that excitement, right? Like a play at the plate now, you have guys going, they're pulling back. I'm like,
they're doing
no,
that on the
get
bases.
in front of the plate.
So now there's no reason, they always said you only slide feet first into home, right? That's what they always said. Now there's no reason that you should ever slide feet first into home because now home plate is flush with the ground.
Yep.
Right.
And it is natural that your foot is slightly above the ground.
Right. Yeah.
And so you'll get called out because your foot technically didn't touch home plate.
So how are they sliding?
So you have to slide this way.
What's safer?
Somebody's going to get hurt.
Not wrong. They make these rules without talking to the players a lot of times. I really believe that. Or they don't actually take the players' consideration in. Because when you really start thinking about it, think about O'Neal Cruz. He's avoiding contact last year, trying to at least. And what happens? He blows up his leg. Who else got hurt? Marcano. Right?
Chicopita Marcano.
Yeah. Trying to avoid
Gregory
contact.
Polanco.
Yeah. It's wild when you think about it because it's just like the same thing as NFL in the NCAA. When you try to change how they've always tackled, it makes things difficult because your brain is going to be like, oh, no, move. And it's like, uh-oh, my knee went that way. It's a problem.
Yeah.
People get angry at times. People like me, old man, get off your lawn type stuff when it comes to this. I'm not griping because it's still the greatest game.
Yeah.
I gripe. I complain because I love the game so much.
Right.
And yeah, everything was always better when you were younger growing up. Christmas was better now than you watch kids now. Or Christmas was better in my time. You might feel that way now. When you were growing up as a kid, it was always better.
Well, now we're Santa Claus, Brownie.
Yeah.
That's a big difference.
But
Santa's real, right?
yes, of course.
Yeah.
But you're buying all the presents now, Brownie.
That's right.
It was way better when I was a kid.
That's right. But the point, again, the point being that the game's still great.
Oh, yeah.
It's just different eras, and replay's here to stay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's just the way it is.
But what's cool about it with both of you guys, it's what I love about working with Brault is we can have a conversation, both love the old school aspect, but also love the new school
Yes.
aspect.
Yeah.
Like, it's just the fact that, like, yeah, I do miss certain things. And I wish, you know, maybe 2 weeks out of the year, they just said, all right, all rules are dead. Let's play.
Yeah.
But tell me you're not impressed watching Jose Soriano throw 100-mile-an-hour sinkers as a starting pitcher.
100%.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
And not
Terribly.
getting the fifth.
Incredibly
It's
impressive.
crazy.
Yeah.
Not get through the fifth.
It was
Yeah.
amazing. Two
Yeah.
Tommy Johns. He was in our system. We had him. We ruled 5. He was a Rule 5 guy. And then and then he got hurt again. He had a second Tommy John after we had him.
I mean, you just
Still
like,
throwing 100.
And he's throwing 100, 101.
and how easy it is.
It's crazy.
It's crazy.
Crazy.
We have a lot to get to. Can we ask you to stick around for a little bit?
I can stick around for a little bit.
Okay. We got to talk about singing, tattoos, everything with Steven Brault on Hold My Cutter.